The massive Trilaxian mothership Eternal Vigilance drifted silently in Earth orbit, its gleaming hull reflecting the blue-green planet below. Inside, Chief Medical Officer Vox stood before the Galactic Union's diplomatic delegation, his four arms gesticulating in frustration. "Absolutely unacceptable," Vox declared, mandibles clicking in agitation. "The humans have allocated only 2% of their ship designs to medical facilities. By Union standards, that's criminally negligent." Ambassador Tal, a tall, elegant being with crystalline skin, nodded gravely. "This deficiency must be addressed before humanity can join our alliance. Their disregard for proper medical protocols is concerning." For 6 months, the Trilaxian delegation had been evaluating Earth's readiness to join the Galactic Union. Most assessments went smoothly. Humans had impressive technological achievements, sustainable energy solutions, and had finally resolved their most destructive conflicts. But their starship designs puzzled the aliens, particularly the minimal space dedicated to medical facilities. Lieutenant James Miller, the human liaison assigned to the delegation, suppressed a smile. This wasn't the first time the aliens had expressed concern over human medical practices. "With respect, Ambassador," Miller said, "we don't neglect medical care. We just approach it differently." "Different indeed," Vox scoffed. "Your military vessels have only basic trauma units. Our smallest scouts carry regeneration chambers and full surgical suites." Miller shrugged. "We focus on preventative measures and rapid field treatment. Our soldiers carry advanced medical kits and are trained in emergency procedures." "Barbaric," Vox muttered. "No wonder your casualties are so high in your historical conflicts." Ambassador Tal raised a crystalline hand. "Perhaps we should observe human medical practices firsthand. A practical demonstration would settle this matter." "That's actually a good idea," Miller agreed. "We have joint military exercises scheduled next week. Your delegation could observe our medical teams in action." Captain Reed of the United Earth Defense Force approved the plan readily when Miller contacted him. "Perfect timing," Reed said through the comm. "We're running combat simulations with the new Ranger units. The Trilaxians can observe from our command center." A week later, the alien delegation boarded the UEDF training facility Armstrong Station in lunar orbit. Ambassador Tal, Medical Officer Vox, and 3 other Trilaxian officials watched as 2 teams of human soldiers prepared for simulated combat. These exercises use training weapons that deliver mild electric shocks instead of plasma, Miller explained. "They sting but cause no permanent damage." Vox's compound eyes narrowed. "And where are your medical personnel?" Miller pointed to soldiers with red crosses on their shoulders. "Each squad has a combat medic. Additionally, all soldiers receive basic medical training." "1 medic per squad?" Vox clicked his mandibles in disbelief. "Our military formations include at least 3 medical officers for every 10 soldiers." The exercise began, and the aliens watched as human soldiers maneuvered through a simulated urban environment. The controlled chaos impressed Ambassador Tal, but Vox remained skeptical, particularly when a soldier took a hit and fell. Instead of calling for evacuation, the squad's medic rushed forward under covering fire, applied a pressure bandage to the wounded soldier's arm, injected something, and helped him back to his feet. Within minutes, the soldier rejoined the fight. "What did your medic inject?" Vox demanded. "Probably a synthetic adrenaline and pain blocker combination," Miller replied. "Standard field treatment." "You mean he's still fighting with an injury?" Ambassador Tal asked, crystal skin shimmering with surprise. Miller nodded. "That's the human way. We patch up and keep moving." Vox's mandibles clicked rapidly. This is exactly the problem. No proper medical protocols, no evacuation procedures, just improvisation. Little did the aliens know that this demonstration would only be the beginning of their education on human resilience, and why extensive medical bays were the least of humanity's concerns in combat. The next morning, Ambassador Tal and Medical Officer Vox joined Captain Reed in the station's modest medical facility. By Trelaxian standards, it barely qualifies as a first aid station. "This is your primary medical bay?" Vox asked incredulously, scanning the compact room with its mere dozen beds and basic medical equipment. "For a station with 200 personnel." "Yes," Captain Reed confirmed. "Most injuries we treat here are minor. Training accidents, illness, the occasional broken bone." "And serious injuries?" Ambassador Tal inquired. "We stabilize and transfer to Earth if necessary," Reed explained, "though that's rare. Our personnel are augmented with basic medical nanotech that handles minor repairs automatically." Vox's antennae twitched with interest. "Nanotech? You mean preventative treatments?" "Standard immunization package," Reed said. "Accelerated healing for minor wounds, infection prevention, basic radiation protection. Nothing fancy compared to your tech, but effective." Before Vox could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Reed's communicator buzzed. "Captain, we have a situation," a voice reported. "Gravitational anomaly detected near Jupiter. Multiple unidentified objects emerging. Hostile." Reed asked sharply. "Unknown, sir. They're not responding to hails." Reed turned to the aliens. "Duty calls. You're welcome to observe from the command center." In the command center, screens displayed a swarm of metallic objects approaching from Jupiter's orbit. Their erratic movement patterns suggested no intelligent control. "Automated mining drones," Lieutenant Miller suggested, studying the readings. "Probably from the abandoned Ganymede operation. Something must have reactivated them." "They're heading toward the Io research outpost," an officer reported. "ETA 40 minutes. Reed nodded grimly. "That outpost has 32 civilians. Nearest military vessel is 3 hours out." He keyed his communicator. "Deploy Ranger Squad Delta. Immediate drop to EO." Ambassador Tal leaned toward Miller. "Rangers? What are they?" "Special Forces," Miller explained. "Rapid response team." On the main screen, 6 armored figures boarded a sleek dropship. Medical Officer Vox noted with dismay that no medical personnel accompanied them. "Your soldiers are deploying without medical support?" he asked. "Rangers are extensively cross-trained," Reed explained. "Each is qualified in multiple specialties, including field medicine." The dropship launched, accelerating rapidly toward Jupiter's moon. Meanwhile, the rogue mining drones continued their inexorable approach to the research outpost. "The drones have mining lasers and excavation equipment," an analyst reported. "Not designed as weapons, but lethal nonetheless." Vox's mandibles clicked anxiously. 6 soldiers against a swarm of machines, without proper medical support. "Watch and learn," Miller said quietly. The Rangers' dropship reached Io in 30 minutes, touching down near the research outpost just as the first mining drones arrived. The squad deployed immediately, establishing a defensive perimeter around the facility. The battle began without preamble. The mining drones, programmed to remove obstacles, attacked with industrial cutting lasers and grappling arms. The Rangers responded with precision fire, disabling drones systematically. Midway through the battle, one Ranger took a direct hit from a mining laser, which sliced through his armor. Ambassador Tal gasped as the soldier collapsed. "He needs immediate medical evacuation," Vox insisted. But instead, another Ranger dashed to his comrade, applied a field dressing, injected something into his neck, and helped him to a defensive position. Most shocking to the aliens, the injured soldier resumed firing at the drones, despite what appeared to be a serious wound. That's impossible," Vox stammered. "By all physiological standards, he should be in severe shock." Captain Reed smiled slightly. "Human standards are different, Doctor. We've evolved to fight through pain." As the battle continued, the Rangers systematically destroyed or disabled the mining drones, protecting the research outpost with minimal damage. Within 40 minutes, the threat was neutralized, and evacuation shuttles arrived for the researchers. The injured Ranger walked to the extraction craft under his own power, supported slightly by a comrade. Ambassador Tal turned to Captain Reed, her crystalline features reflecting confusion and respect. I believe we need to reevaluate our understanding of human resilience. The aftermath of the Io incident prompted intense discussion among the Trilaxian delegation. Ambassador Tal had requested detailed medical records of the injured ranger, Sergeant Tom Brooks, and the findings left Medical Officer Vox in a state of scientific shock. The laser severed muscle tissue and nicked his femoral artery, Vox explained during their private meeting. By all reasonable medical standards, he should have been incapacitated, yet he continued fighting for 27 minutes after injury. Ambassador Tal's crystalline form shimmered thoughtfully. What treatment did he receive in the field? That's what's most fascinating, Vox replied, mandibles clicking rapidly in excitement despite his disapproval. His squad mate administered a compound they call combat cocktail, a mixture of synthetic clotting agents, pain suppressants, and stimulants, then applied a self-sealing pressure bandage with microbots that temporarily fused the damaged artery. Primitive but effective, Tal observed. Effective but dangerous, Vox countered. The stimulants alone would cause cardiac arrest in most sentient species. Humans have evolved redundant circulatory pathways and remarkable adrenal responses. Lieutenant Miller entered their meeting room after a brief knock. Ambassador, Doctor, Captain Reed has arranged something that might interest you. A demonstration of our historical medical techniques. They followed Miller to a large training room where 24 soldiers stood in formation. Captain Reed greeted them warmly. Today we're conducting historical combat medicine training, Reed explained, from Earth's pre-space conflicts. We found these techniques remain valuable even with advanced technology. The soldiers paired off, one plain wounded, the other a medic. What followed astonished the aliens. The human medics improvised tourniquets from clothing, created pressure bandages from plastic wrappers, and fashioned splints from whatever materials were at hand. This is their idea of medical training, Vox whispered, horrified yet fascinated. Humans call it battlefield medicine, Miller explained. The philosophy is simple. Stabilize with whatever you have available. Keep moving if possible. But why not simply equip proper medical technology? Tal asked. Weight constraints, for one, Miller replied. But mostly because human history taught us that no plan survives contact with the enemy. Equipment fails, supplies run out. We adapt. After the demonstration, one soldier demonstrated how to suture a wound using ordinary sewing equipment and dental floss. Barbaric, Vox muttered, though his scientific curiosity was clearly piqued. Captain Reed overheard. Perhaps, but humans evolved as persistence hunters, Doctor. Our ancestors would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We're designed to keep going when others would stop. That explains much about your species, Ambassador Tal said thoughtfully. Reed nodded. We've transferred that evolutionary trait to our approach to warfare and medicine. We assume we'll be hurt, but also assume we can continue functioning. Later that day, Sergeant Brooks himself joined them in the station's dining facility. His leg was bandaged, but he walked with only a slight limp. The Trilaxians stared in amazement. Shouldn't you be recovering in bed? Vox couldn't help asking. Brooks shrugged. Doc says moving around helps circulation. Besides, I've had worse. Worse? Tal echoed incredulously. 3 years ago, mining accident on Mars, Brooks said casually while filling his tray with food. Caught in a pressure blowout. Collapsed lung. Broken ribs. Decompression injuries. Sealed my suit with repair tape and walked 2 kilometers back to base. Vox's compound eyes widened. And you survived this without immediate medical intervention. Had to, Brooks replied simply. No one else could come get me. It wasn't pleasant, but humans can endure a lot when necessary. As Brooks limped away to join his squad, Ambassador Tal turned to Miller. I'm beginning to understand why your ships don't prioritize medical facilities. Your entire approach is fundamentally different from ours. Miller nodded. The Trilaxian approach makes perfect sense for your physiology. You invest in medical technology because it matches your evolutionary path. We invest in adaptability and resilience because that's our strength. Fascinating, Vox admitted reluctantly, though still concerning from a medical perspective. What none of them realized was that the universe was about to provide an even more dramatic demonstration of human resilience. The alarms sounded at 300 station time, jarring Ambassador Tal and Medical Officer Vox from their rest cycles. Lieutenant Miller arrived at their quarters moments later, his expression grim. "We have a situation," Miller explained as they hurried through the corridors. "A civilian mining vessel has reported catastrophic life support failure near the asteroid belt. They have 28 crew members and minimal emergency resources." In the command center, Captain Reed was coordinating a response. "The Dauntless can reach them in 8 hours, but their oxygen will be depleted in 6. "What about our Rangers?" Miller asked. Reed shook his head. "All deployed to Saturn's moons, tracking those mining drones to their source." Ambassador Tal stepped forward. "The Trilaxian shuttle could reach them in 5 hours. Our medical facilities are superior to anything your rescue vessels carry." Reed considered this for only a moment before nodding. "We accept your assistance with gratitude, Ambassador." Within 30 minutes, the Trilaxian shuttle launched with Ambassador Tal, Medical Officer Vox, and 4 human rescue specialists aboard. During the journey, Vox prepared the shuttle's advanced medical bay, designed to treat serious trauma and environmental exposure. "Your miners will likely suffer from oxygen deprivation and possibly radiation exposure," Vox explained to Lisa Ford, the leader of the human rescue team. "Our regeneration chambers can stabilize up to 6 patients simultaneously." Ford nodded. "We appreciate your help, but you should know human miners are a tough bunch. They're trained for emergency situations." Vox's mandibles clicked dismissively. Training cannot overcome basic physiological limitations. When they arrived at the crippled mining vessel Prospector, they found a situation far worse than anticipated. A micrometeorite had pierced the hull, damaging life support and communications simultaneously. Emergency bulkheads had sealed, trapping the crew in separate compartments with limited oxygen. The rescue team boarded wearing environmental suits. To the aliens' surprise, most of the human miners were conscious despite the dangerously thin atmosphere. Many had improvised breathing apparatuses from equipment parts, filtering and recirculating what little oxygen remained. In the engine room, they found 3 engineers who had sealed themselves in a coolant maintenance chamber, using the emergency oxygen supply normally reserved for system repairs. Inventive, Ambassador Tal admitted as they helped the engineers to the shuttle. The most serious cases were in the ship's galley, where 7 crew members had been trapped with no emergency equipment. When the rescue team breached the door, they found the miners in various states of oxygen deprivation. 2 were unconscious, while others exhibited confusion and impaired motor function. "Immediate medical intervention required," Vox declared, directing his Trilaxian medical assistants to prepare the regeneration chambers. To his astonishment, the human rescue team had different priorities. They administered emergency oxygen, but rather than evacuating the worst cases first, they systematically worked to stabilize all patients where they lay. "What are you doing?" Vox demanded. "These 2 require immediate advanced care." Ford didn't look up from the miner she was treating. "Standard triage protocol. Stabilize everyone first, then evacuate in order of transportability. Moving the worst cases immediately could kill them." "Our regeneration chambers," Vox began. "We'll still be there in 5 minutes," Ford finished firmly. "Trust us, Doctor. We've done this before." Reluctantly, Vox followed the human protocol. Within 15 minutes, all miners were stabilized and evacuation began. On the shuttle, the most serious cases were indeed placed in regeneration chambers, but the others received only basic oxygen therapy and monitoring. "Their blood oxygen levels are still dangerously low," Vox noted with concern. "They should all receive intensive treatment." "They're breathing on their own and mentally alert," Ford countered. "Their bodies will recover naturally." We save the advanced intervention for those who truly need it. The miners themselves seemed remarkably unconcerned about their brush with death. One grizzled veteran named Hank even refused to lie down, insisting on helping monitor his more seriously affected colleagues. Been breathing bad air for 30 years, he told Ambassador Tal with a wheezing laugh. Body gets used to it. As they approached Armstrong Station, Vox conducted follow-up examinations and found, to his scientific amazement, that the miners were indeed recovering rapidly with minimal intervention. Their bodies were compensating for the oxygen deprivation in ways his medical training suggested were impossible. Your species continues to confound medical logic, Vox told Captain Reed later in the station's infirmary. These miners should be exhibiting severe neurological deficits. Reed smiled. Human bodies are remarkably adaptable. Doctor, we evolved in an environment where injury and hardship were constant companions. Those who couldn't function while injured didn't survive to pass on their genes. A harsh evolutionary path, Ambassador Tal observed. But effective, Reed replied. And it shaped not just our bodies, but our approach to medicine itself. 2 days after the mining vessel rescue, Lieutenant Miller invited the Trilaxian delegation to observe a unique aspect of human medical practice. They gathered in what humans called a simulation lab, a facility that replicated various emergency scenarios with unsettling realism. Today's training focuses on medical care under extreme conditions, Miller explained as medical personnel prepared amidst realistic mock-ups of damaged spacecraft interiors. We call it field improvisation. Medical Officer Vox watched skeptically as human doctors and medics were presented with increasingly dire scenarios with strict equipment limitations. In one simulation, a medic treated a severe chest wound using only the contents of a standard toolkit, sealing the puncture with an adhesive patch meant for electrical repairs and draining accumulated blood with a tube salvaged from hydraulic equipment. This can't possibly meet proper medical standards, Vox protested. It doesn't, Miller agreed. But when the choice is improvised treatment or death, we choose improvisation every time. Ambassador Tal observed thoughtfully. Your approach prioritizes immediate survival over optimal care. Exactly, Miller nodded. Perfect is the enemy of good enough when minutes count. The final simulation involved complete failure of medical equipment during a crisis. The human medics immediately switched to what they called battlefield medicine, manual techniques requiring no technology beyond the simplest tools. In worst-case scenarios, Miller explained, humans can perform surgeries with mechanical tools, set bones without imaging technology, and diagnose many conditions through physical examination alone. Primitive, Vox muttered. Reliable, Miller countered. Technology fails. Human ingenuity persists. After the simulations, the delegation toured the station's rehabilitation facility, where injured personnel worked to recover physical function. The aliens were surprised to see patients pushing through obvious pain, sweating profusely as they forced damaged limbs to respond. Why not use muscle stimulators? Vox asked, watching a woman grimace as she lifted weights with a recently reconstructed arm. We have technology that can maintain muscle tone passively. Active rehabilitation builds stronger neural pathways, explained the facility's doctor. The pain and effort are features, not bugs. They force the brain to re-establish control. Fascinating, Ambassador Tal said. Your medical philosophy embraces suffering as a healing mechanism. Not exactly, the doctor replied. We don't worship suffering. We simply recognize that the path through pain often leads to better outcomes than the path around it. Later that day, an unexpected visitor arrived at the station, a high-ranking human diplomat named Director Adams, who'd traveled from Earth specifically to meet with the Trilaxian delegation. Over dinner in the station's officers' mess, Adams engaged the aliens in philosophical discussion. I understand you've been studying our medical practices, Adams said, cutting his steak with practiced precision. The aliens couldn't help noticing his right hand was prosthetic, an elegant but obviously mechanical replacement. We find them, Unconventional, Ambassador Tal replied diplomatically. Adams smiled. A polite understatement. You find them barbaric, I imagine. Your techniques often prioritize expediency over proper care, Vox acknowledged. From a medical perspective, it's concerning, yet effective, Adams noted. Humans have survived conditions that would exterminate many species, not because we're stronger or smarter, but because we refuse to accept limitations, even those imposed by our own bodies. Ambassador Tal's crystalline form shimmered with interest. Director Adams, if I may ask, your prosthetic hand. Afghanistan, 2032. Adams replied matter-of-factly. Improvised explosive device. Field medic used a belt as a tourniquet, kept me conscious by slapping my face repeatedly, and had me walk 2 miles to the extraction point despite significant blood loss. Vox's mandibles clicked in horror. That violates every medical protocol. It saved my life, Adams countered. Had I been evacuated immediately and treated according to proper protocols, I would have died waiting for the medical transport that never came because the landing zone was compromised. He flexed his mechanical fingers thoughtfully. Humans have a saying, where there's life, there's hope. As long as the heart beats and the brain functions, we consider everything else negotiable. Ambassador Tal considered this. Your species accepts physical damage as a cost of survival in a way most galactic civilizations have evolved beyond. Or perhaps, Adams suggested gently, in ways they never evolved into. Every species' path is shaped by their homeworld. Earth was never gentle with her children. As they finished their meal, Adams offered a perspective that would stay with the aliens long after. The greatest medical advancement humans ever made wasn't a technology or procedure. It was the realization that the mind's will to survive can override the body's limitations. That's why our medical bays are small. We carry our best healing tools between our ears. The following week brought opportunity for the Trilaxians to witness human medical philosophy in an entirely new context. Armstrong Station received visitors from Earth's underwater colonies, humans who had undergone extensive genetic modification to better survive in deep-sea environments. Voluntary physiological modification is common in specialized human professions, Lieutenant Miller explained as Ambassador Tal and Medical Officer Vox stared at the visitors' gill-like structures and webbed hands. These adaptations allow extended underwater operations without equipment. You alter your basic biology for occupational convenience, Vox asked, both horrified and fascinated. We adapt to our environment, rather than forcing the environment to adapt to us, replied Dr. Helen Morris, the lead geneticist accompanying the deep-sea delegation. It's more efficient. Ambassador Tal studied the modified humans with newfound respect. Most species consider their biological form sacrosanct. Even Trilaxians, with all our medical technology, draw the line at fundamental genetic restructuring. Humans have always been tinkerers, Dr. Morris smiled, including with ourselves. The purpose of the deep-sea delegation's visit soon became apparent. They were consulting with Armstrong Station's medical team about a new series of modifications designed for the asteroid mining teams. Adaptations to help human bodies better tolerate radiation exposure and reduced gravity environments. In the station's laboratory, the aliens observed a heated debate between different human medical specialists, each approaching the problem from a unique perspective. Traditional doctors argued for pharmaceutical solutions, geneticists promoted permanent adaptations, and cybernetics experts advocated for technological implants. This is how human medicine advances, Miller explained quietly to the aliens as they watched. Conflict, debate, multiple approaches tested simultaneously. We throw everything at the problem and see what sticks. Chaotic, Vox observed, but effective, Miller replied. Each specialist brings their perspective. Each approach has merit. Often the best solution combines elements from multiple disciplines. The debate was interrupted when station security announced an unexpected situation. A small transport shuttle arriving from Mars had reported a medical emergency. One passenger, a mining engineer, had suffered severe radiation poisoning after an accident during station keeping near a solar monitoring outpost. Both human and Trilaxian medical personnel prepared to receive the patient. When the shuttle docked, they were shocked by what they found. The engineer, a middle-aged man named Tom Wilson, was conscious and sitting upright despite radiation readings that suggested he should be incapacitated. Started anti-rad protocols myself, Wilson explained weakly as they transferred him to a gurney, injected the emergency cocktail, and sealed myself in the shuttle's shielded maintenance compartment. Vox scanned him with Trilaxian medical equipment. Your cellular damage is extensive. You should be in critical condition. Wilson managed a pained smile. Don't have time for that. Project deadline next month. The human doctors administered immediate treatment while Vox observed their protocols. To his surprise, they focused less on repairing the damage than on supporting the body's natural recovery processes, boosting immune function, accelerating cell replacement, and carefully balancing organ systems to prevent cascading failure. Your approach is counterintuitive, Vox told the human chief medical officer afterward. Trilaxian medicine would focus on direct tissue repair. Different philosophies, the doctor replied. You build perfect replacement parts. We encourage the body to rebuild itself, which creates stronger systems in the long run. Later, in Wilson's recovery room, Ambassador Tal noted something remarkable. Despite his condition, the engineer was working from his bed, reviewing technical specifications on a tablet. Should you not be resting? Tal asked. Brain works fine, Wilson shrugged. Body needs time to recover, but no reason to waste a perfectly good day. This resilience continued to astonish the aliens. Where Trilaxian patients would enter healing trances for days, humans pushed through illness and injury with stubborn determination. They treated their bodies not as fragile vessels requiring perfect care, but as adaptable tools that could function under suboptimal conditions. During dinner that evening, Ambassador Tal shared a revelation with Captain Reed. I believe I finally understand why humans maintain such minimal medical facilities compared to other species. Your entire approach is fundamentally different. You don't expect perfect healing environments because you've evolved to heal under adversity. Reed nodded. For most of our history, humans who waited for ideal medical conditions died. Those who adapted, improvised, and kept functioning despite injury survived to pass on their genes. Our medical philosophy reflects our evolutionary history, a history written in blood and survival, Tal observed. Yes, Reed agreed, and one that may prove valuable to the Galactic Union in ways none of us yet understand. The Trilaxian delegation's 6-month assessment of Earth was nearing its conclusion when the ultimate test of human medical philosophy arrived unexpectedly. A massive solar flare, the largest recorded in decades, erupted with minimal warning, bathing the solar system in deadly radiation and electromagnetic disruption. Armstrong Station's shielding activated automatically, but not before communications were severely compromised. Reports filtered in slowly. Earth's planetary shields had held, but numerous outposts and vessels throughout the system were damaged or cut off. In the emergency council meeting that followed, Captain Reed laid out the grim situation. We've lost contact with 17 outposts and 38 vessels. Rescue operations are complicated by continued solar interference. We need to prioritize. The Trilaxian mothership Eternal Vigilance had weathered the storm with its superior shielding, but Ambassador Tal was shaken by the scale of the disaster. Our vessel can assist with evacuations. Our medical facilities can accommodate hundreds. Appreciated, Ambassador. Reed nodded, but evacuation may not be possible or necessary in many cases. Human outposts are designed to operate independently for extended periods. Medical Officer Vox studied the damage reports with growing concern. These radiation levels exceed safe exposure limits. Without prompt medical intervention, permanent cellular damage is inevitable. Lieutenant Miller, now coordinating with rescue teams, looked up from his console. Humans have adaptive radiation protocols, Doctor. Every outpost has emergency treatments that can mitigate effects for weeks if necessary. The rescue operations began immediately. The Trilaxian shuttle, with its superior sensors and shielding, joined human rescue vessels in locating and assessing affected outposts. Ambassador Tal and Medical Officer Vox accompanied a team to a research station orbiting Venus that had suffered severe damage. What they found there changed their understanding of humanity forever. The station's primary systems were offline. Life support functioned at minimal levels. Half the structure was exposed to vacuum. Yet inside, they found the 12-person crew not only alive, but actively working to restore critical systems. How are they functioning? Vox marveled as they observed through viewport windows before docking. Their radiation exposure exceeds survivable levels. The station's commander, Dr. Lewis, greeted them at the airlock. His face was blistered from radiation exposure, and he moved with obvious pain, but his mind remained sharp. "We've been implementing the Darwin Protocol," he explained, accepting a medical injection from the rescue team with gratitude. "It's our emergency response for extreme radiation exposure." "The Darwin Protocol?" Ambassador Tal inquired. Dr. Lewis winced as the medication spread through his system. "Named after the father of evolution. Basically, we flood the body with cellular repair compounds, anti-radiation drugs, and synthetic enzymes that temporarily alter how cells respond to damage. It's brutal on the system, but keeps us functioning when we should be incapacitated." The rescue team's medic elaborated. "The protocol doesn't prevent damage. It allows the body to function despite it. We can repair the damage later when proper medical facilities are available." Throughout the solar system, similar stories emerge. On a mining platform near Mercury, engineers had sealed themselves in the core sampling vault, using the lid shielding designed to protect sensitive equipment to protect themselves instead. On Mars, colonists had retreated to underground shelters, administering anti-radiation treatments and continuing critical operations despite deteriorating conditions. Most impressive to the aliens was the case of the Deep Space Monitoring Station Sentinel. Hit directly by the solar flare, its 4 crew members had suffered severe radiation poisoning and burns. With their medical equipment destroyed, they had improvised treatments using industrial chemicals and food supplies, keeping themselves alive and conscious long enough to maintain the station's critical early warning function, which had saved countless other lives by providing additional warning time. When rescue finally reached them 3 days later, all 4 were still at their posts, despite injuries that Vox declared incompatible with consciousness by any medical standard I recognize. In the aftermath, as the solar storm subsided and recovery operations continued, Ambassador Tal called a formal meeting with Captain Reed and Earth's diplomatic representatives. "My delegation came here to evaluate humanity's readiness to join the Galactic Union," Tal began, her crystalline form glowing with formal intensity. "We had concerns about your medical protocols, which seemed primitive and insufficient by our standards." The humans waited patiently as she continued. "I was wrong," she declared simply. "What appeared as deficiency is, in fact, a different kind of advancement. One born of your species' unique evolutionary path. You've developed not just technologies to heal your bodies, but bodies and minds that can function despite damage that would incapacitate other species." She gestured to Medical Officer Vox, who stepped forward with uncharacteristic humility. "In my centuries of medical practice," Vox said, "I have never encountered a species with your particular resilience. You don't invest in extensive medical facilities because your greatest medical advancement is built into your very nature. The ability to adapt, improvise, and continue functioning under conditions that by all rational standards should render you inoperative." Captain Reed accepted their words with a nod. "Necessity shaped us, Ambassador. Earth was never gentle, and space is even less forgiving. We learned early that waiting for perfect conditions usually means waiting forever." Ambassador Tal's crystalline form shimmered with what the humans had come to recognize as deep emotion. My final report to the Galactic Union will strongly recommend humanity's admission, with a special note that while your medical installations may not meet standard protocols, your biological and psychological adaptations represent an evolutionary advance that may benefit all member species. Director Adams, representing Earth's government, smiled. Perhaps there's a lesson here for the Union. Technology and facilities are valuable, but the will to survive, to keep fighting when every logical assessment says you should surrender, that's humanity's true contribution to galactic medicine. As the formal alliance documents were prepared in the following days, Ambassador Talum made one final observation to Lieutenant Miller. The title of your presentation when we first arrived, Why Humans Don't Bother with Medical Bays, now makes perfect sense. You don't invest heavily in medical facilities because you've invested in something far more valuable and reliable. What's that? Miller asked. The unbreakable human spirit, Tal replied. A force that, I suspect, the galaxy will soon discover is the most powerful healing technology of all. The day the aliens learned why humans don't bother with medical bays marked not just humanity's entry into the galactic community, but the beginning of a fundamental shift in how intelligent species throughout the stars approach the very concept of survival itself.